My husband had oligozoospermia. For the sake of having a child, we had been married for 5 years and undergone 6 IVF attempts. This time, after watching 2 hours of adult videos with him, he finally managed to produce 1 healthy sperm. I thought our hardship was over, but on the day of my IVF procedure, he swapped the sperm with his white moonlight, his old flame. I was told that my 6th IVF had failed, while my husband's white moonlight posted a photo of her pregnant belly with defined abs on social media, openly tagging my husband. Thanks to my bestie Ethan for providing the perfect little swimmers. Unwed and pregnant, one and done. A mutual friend commented below. 666 I told you if you can't have kids it's always the woman's fault. If he'd switched partners earlier, Ethan's kid might be old enough to play at the park. My husband replied with a smug emoji. My seed deserves to be with someone who has excellent genes like Scarlett. I silently liked and commented, may you have a house full of children, 8 in one go. Then, I promptly contacted a lawyer to draft the divorce papers. A tainted man is best discarded. No sooner had I posted the comment than Ethan's phone call came. Arrogant and commanding, his tone was accusatory. Clara, Scarlett is already stressed enough with IVF. You're a woman too, can't you show some kindness? Delete your comment and apologize to Scarlett immediately. My sperm is mine to control. Who are you to make such snide remarks? So shameful. I chuckled bitterly. Looking down at my abdomen and thighs, covered in needle marks and bruises, and my weight gain from the medications, I realized that he knew how hard IVF was for women. But I had done it 6 times, and he had never once shown me any concern or sympathy. In our 5 years of marriage, all because of his oligozoospermia, I had ignored my own physical health and undergone 6 IVF procedures, all to satisfy his parents' desire for a grandchild and his own longing to be a father. This time, after finally getting a healthy sperm from him, he secretly swapped it on the day of the IVF procedure. Just to fulfill Scarlett's wish for an unwed pregnancy. He was willing to let me suffer needlessly. I had told him that the doctor said this was my last chance. The more IVF cycles you do, the less likely they are to succeed. And after so many failures, my body couldn't take it anymore. But he still chose Scarlett. He even reposted Scarlett's social media update immediately after the doctor told me that the IVF had failed. Ha ha ha. I'm finally going to be a dad. I could feel his joy and elation even through the screen. It reminded me of his undisguised disgust every time he had to go to the hospital to produce little swimmers. Clara, are you ever going to stop? I'm a person, not a breeding machine. You make me go to the hospital every month. Do you know how much that hurts my masculine pride? I was diagnosed with oligozoospermia, but have you ever wondered if maybe your land isn't fertile enough to sprout? My heart ached as if a sharp blade was twisting inside it. My years of compromise and seeking peace were a joke. Like a balloon that had been popped, I was rapidly deflating. I felt a profound weariness in my bones. Ethan, let's get a divorce. After hanging up, I sat blankly on the bed for a long time. My mind was empty. It seemed as if I wasn't thinking about anything. But when I came to, I realized that the tears at the corners of my eyes had already soaked the collar of my shirt. A sound came from the door. I looked up to see Ethan stride in, his face dark and angry, shouting without even looking at me. Clara, will you ever stop? All you know how to do is talk about divorce. Seeing the look of utter despair on my face, he seemed momentarily choked, his expression shifting. He awkwardly approached and kissed me on the cheek. Okay, it was a bit thoughtless of me this time, but Scarlett is my friend, there's nothing really between us. The kiss felt like it was from another lifetime. Since I started trying to get pregnant, I had gained 50 pounds, and my face was covered in acne from the metabolic changes. After I got fat and ugly, my husband had never kissed me again. I even saw a post online where my husband had written, "My wife is fat and has a face full of acne. I really can't bring myself to kiss her. Even doing it to make a baby is physically repulsive." Just thinking about those words made my heart ache. Honey, where did you put my tie? Third drawer on the left side of the closet, I replied instinctively. These past few years, my life had revolved around trying to get pregnant and taking care of Ethan's daily needs. Hearing my answer, Ethan's face brightened with a smile. I knew it, you don't really want a divorce. He seemed relieved and then turned to rummage around the room. Honey, where are those baby supplies you bought before? Find them, I'll bring them to Scarlett later. Also, send me the pregnancy guide you made earlier, I'll forward it to Scarlett. Oh, and are you free tomorrow? Can you accompany Scarlett to her checkup? You've been to that hospital so many times, you must know it better than her. Try to take a taxi. Scarlett's still in the early months of her pregnancy. She might fall or bump into something and miscarry. You have to be extra careful tomorrow. All these years I never knew he had such a caring and considerate side. I laughed quietly, tears in my eyes, but not for Ethan, for myself. How could I have let myself live so miserably all these years? I took a deep breath, turned to my husband of so many years, and said in a light tone, Ethan, I'm serious about the divorce. Ethan's expression froze. But a second later, he angrily threw the tie at my face. The tie was soft, but it still stung when it hit my face. Clara, enough. You're just making a fuss, you don't have to go this far. You've been sulking ever since I came through the door. I kissed you, I hugged you, what more do you want? Scarlett is my friend. She needs to have a baby. If it means just a sperm, even if she wants me to sleep with her, I'd do it. He shouted angrily, all in one breath, and then added, You better think about it. I'm not staying home tonight. I'm going to see Scarlett. Watching his hurried figure leave, I felt an odd sense of calm. Perhaps this was the difference between loving someone else and loving yourself. As he said, Ethan didn't come back that night. I was used to it. To Ethan, Scarlett was a haven where he could ease his worries. They could talk about skiing, fitness, and street dance. Now they had a new topic, parenting. One night was probably not enough for them to cover all that. And just as I predicted, after a sleepless night, as soon as I opened my phone, I saw Scarlett's social media post. Thank you to my friends for celebrating my baby's second-week birthday. In the pictures, apart from Ethan, there were his group of street dance friends. The comments below Scarlett's post were full of replies from her friends. Xavier. Ethan, you're so unfair. You stole the chance to be the father of our Princess Scarlett's baby. I'm dissing you. Sean. Yeah, just the thought of Scarlett's baby calling Ethan dad makes me want to vomit blood. Hugh. It's okay. I'm the first to sign up when Scarlett has her second child. Then came Ethan's replies. I graduated with a master's degree, I play the guitar, I can breakdance, my IQ and EQ are all on point. Of course Princess Scarlett would choose me. You morons, get lost. Hearing that, Xavier immediately fired back. You are not afraid your old shrew of a wife would break your leg after hearing this? Sean replied. Ethan, why don't you just get divorced and focus on raising Scarlett's baby? Didn't you say that you are disgusted by the smell of your wife? That makes you want to throw up. Even though I had already decided to get a divorce, it still hurt to see Ethan's friends publicly humiliating me on social media. From the time I started dating Ethan to our marriage, his street dance friends had always disliked me. At the beginning, I had tried to get along with them, but I couldn't agree with their libertine values when I saw them playing kissing games and dancing suggestively with Scarlett in public. Finally, after one time when they forced Ethan and Scarlett to kiss during a truth or dare game, I completely lost it. After that, they said that I was being a jealous busybody. They openly criticized me on social media, saying that I was ugly with a bad temper. Unlike Scarlett, who was beautiful, had a good body, and was easygoing. I hadn't gone to any gatherings after that as I did not enjoy my time there. But I also didn't force Ethan to break contact with them. Even though they often publicly ridiculed me on social media, I had tolerated it. But now that my marriage with Ethan was broken, I no longer needed to worry about saving anyone's face. I immediately replied to Scarlett's post, I don't know if I smell old, but I certainly smell something foul. If you can't smell it, then sniff your armpits. It's going to happen soon. Thank you for caring so much about my affairs over the years. Even the nosy neighborhood gossip ladies are not as mouthy as you. After posting it, I forwarded the divorce agreement that my lawyer had drafted for me overnight to social media. I wrote, Ethan, sign it. I'm making space for your Princess Scarlett's child. As soon as I posted it, Scarlett commented below me, I'm sorry, Clara. I really didn't expect that you'd mind my being pregnant with Ethan's child so much. Don't worry, I will go get an abortion later. No sooner had Scarlett commented than Ethan called. The timing was so precise that I had no doubt that they were sleeping in the same bed to be able to coordinate their actions so perfectly. I didn't answer Ethan's call. But after a few seconds, my parents and Ethan's parents started calling me. I still didn't answer. But I didn't expect Ethan's father to directly at my parents in the family group chat. "Dear in-laws, how have you raised your daughter? Where's her responsibility towards marriage? She is talking about divorce over an argument. It's just uncivilized. It's clear that poor villages produce troublemakers. We were extremely unlucky to have a daughter-in-law like Clara in our family." Looking at the familiar lecture, I took a few deep breaths. Only then did I pick up my phone and directly at my father-in-law. "Dad, my mom and dad really did not do a good job raising me. They let me come to your house to take care of an imbecile. By the way, you should go to the hospital soon. The mother of your grandson is about to have an abortion. If you are any later, there will be no one to inherit your throne." After sending that, I sent a message to my mom and dad. "I'll explain everything when I get home tonight." After doing all of this, my body went limp on the sofa. It was only then that I realized that my fingers were trembling as I tapped on the screen. The tight ache in my heart came next. 4 years of marriage, giving everything, maintaining the marriage. And now it had become a disgusting mess. Just as I was forcing back the tears, Ethan pushed open the door. He didn't care that my face was pale as I sat slumped on the sofa. He came over and grabbed my hand. "Clara, you need to go to the hospital with me right now. Do you know that Scarlett is going to have an abortion because of your reckless behavior? Do you know how much effort Scarlett has put in to get this baby? How many injections she needs to take every day? I don't ask you to be a kind person. I only ask you not to be so evil as to kill an innocent life." Hearing Ethan's words, bitterness flooded my heart. So Ethan knew all along. He knew how painful and hard it was to do IVF. But he was so concerned for Scarlett, who was doing it only once. I had done it 6 times. Forcefully suppressing the rage boiling in my heart, I shook Ethan off with a calm expression. "Ethan, if you're back to talk about divorce, then let's sit down and discuss it properly. If you want me to beg Scarlett not to abort the baby, I'm sorry, I won't go." Ethan's face immediately changed. "Why won't you go? If it wasn't for you, how could Scarlett be going to the hospital for an abortion? I'm telling you, you have to go today, whether you want to or not." Saying that, he squatted down, untied his tie, tied my hands, and lifted me up before dragging me out of the door. Because he was in a hurry, he slammed my head hard on the door frame as he left. Tears laced with pain slid from my eyes. I didn't scoff or struggle. It wasn't until Ethan dragged me into the car and drove to the hospital that I started to feel the gravity of my situation. The moment they saw me, old Tom immediately lashed out. "Clara, are you out of your mind? If you're mentally ill, go to a psychiatric hospital. What the hell are you saying on Scarlett's social media and yours? Do you know that you've made Scarlett cry since morning, and now she wants to abort the child?" Sean chimed in. "Clara, if you want to be a bitter woman, go be one. Why do you have to blame others? I've never seen such a disgusting woman in my life." Xavier added, "Ethan, what are you waiting for? Bring this idiot Clara over here, and make her kneel down and apologize to Scarlett." Listening to their complaints, Ethan's face darkened. He shoved me roughly. "What are you waiting for? Go apologize to Scarlett. I'm telling you, if Scarlett doesn't forgive you and decides to abort the child, you'll be sorry." Ethan's shove sent me crashing to the ground, and my knees immediately began to bleed. Just as I was covering my leg and struggling to get up, Scarlett rushed over with a look of frantic distress, her eyes red. "What are you doing? How can you be so rude to Clara? She just has a narrow mind and can't accept that I'm pregnant with Ethan's baby. But even if she's in the wrong, you can't be so mean to her." Hearing Scarlett's words, Ethan immediately turned his anger towards me. "Scarlett, don't defend her. She disrespected you on social media. She deserves to be taught a lesson. My sperm is mine. I have the right to decide what happens to it." Hearing Ethan's words, I supported myself up from the ground. I took a deep breath, filled with unprecedented anger, and slapped Ethan across the face. "Ethan, this slap is my compensation for undergoing 6 IVF procedures for you in the past 4 years. And don't try to pressure me with your role as a husband. In my eyes, you're nothing more than a castrated cat, only knowing how to get aroused but not how to seed. You're a good-for-nothing who can't have a child. You don't even deserve to be called a man. Then I turned towards Scarlett. Scarlett, if you want to be a slut, don't pretend otherwise. The pretense makes you even more despicable. Having said that, I turned and left, meeting their hateful gazes. As I reached the corner of the hospital, the tears still uncontrollably streamed down my face. I only wanted to have a dignified divorce. But Ethan wouldn't even let me have my final wish. After getting my knee bandaged at the hospital, I went back to my parents' home. Seeing my pale face and the bandage on my knee, they didn't ask me anything about the divorce. Mom just gently asked what I wanted to eat for dinner. Dad sat silently on the sofa, smoking. Seeing the worried looks on my parents' faces, the grievances, the resentment, and the pain I had been suppressing surged over me. I told my mother everything that had happened. Hearing my story, my mother's eyes instantly turned red. Divorce. We absolutely must get a divorce. And don't ever go back to that place. Your father and I will go get your belongings. And if those people from Ethan's family dare to come here to make trouble, I'll call your uncle and we'll break Ethan's dog legs. But, just like when I had stubbornly married a man 5 years my junior, I didn't want my parents to worry about my divorce. I immediately hugged my mother. Don't worry, Mom. I've posted the divorce agreement on social media. Whether Ethan agrees or not, I will get a divorce. Perhaps it was my exceptionally cold attitude in the afternoon that had scared Ethan, or perhaps Ethan's parents had persuaded him. That night, Ethan came to my house. As soon as he pushed the door open, he said unwillingly, "Okay, Clara, I apologize. It was too much of me to make you kneel down to Scarlett today. And about the children, since you like children so much, tomorrow I'll take you to the hospital for IVF. You can have 8 babies, 10 babies, whatever you want. But can you please stop making a fuss about the IVF thing? Can't we just move past it?" Looking at Ethan's shameless behavior, my heart started to ache fiercely again. This was the man I had loved for 5 years, the man I had cared for 5 years. I clenched my fists tightly. I was about to angrily tell Ethan that we would go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, but my father, who had been silent and smoking ever since I came home, suddenly grabbed a broom and started beating Ethan with it. "Who the hell do you think you are? You tell my daughter to go back whenever you feel like it. Ethan, you little scoundrel, let me tell you one thing. You're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow with my daughter and get a divorce. And that female friend of yours, that bastard growing in her belly, I'll make sure it's always called an illegitimate child." Having been hit several times, Ethan angrily snatched the broom out of my father's hands. "You crazy old man, are you out of your mind hitting people? Fine, if you want a divorce, we'll get a divorce. Just don't you and your daughter come crawling back to us. We are going to the Civil Affairs Bureau for registration tomorrow morning. Whoever doesn't go is a grandson of a turtle." After yelling angrily, Ethan slammed the door and left. The moment the door closed, my father suddenly collapsed. He squeezed my hand tightly and cried, "Clara, Dad is useless, Dad. Can't help you. You've suffered so much. Dad didn't even know these past few years. And with that shameless father-in-law of yours, they forced you to have children. Dad's sorry. It's all Dad's fault for being useless. That's why you suffered so much at your husband's house." With that, my father slapped himself twice on his face. Seeing my father like that, as if finding a place to lean on, I burst into tears. "Dad, don't do this. Please don't do this. It's okay, really. I'll be okay once I get a divorce. It's my fault. It was my fault that I was blind and made the wrong choice. I beg you, don't blame yourself. I'll get through this. You believe me, please believe me, I'll get through it." Watching my father and I cry, my mother also stood aside, wiping away her tears in sorrow. "Divorce? We must get a divorce. Tomorrow Mom and Dad will go with you to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Even if we get nothing, we must get a divorce." Hearing my parents' words, I cried even harder. All these years of marriage with Ethan, not only did I suffer, but my parents suffered as well. Instead of saying that Ethan's friends didn't accept me because I was too mature and out of place, it would be more accurate to say that I didn't have powerful parents to back me up, I couldn't afford to live life like they did, carefree and recklessly. Ethan's family was in business and made a lot of money in their early years. From the time I married him, Ethan's family looked down on my dad for being a security guard and my mom for being a restaurant server, saying they weren't worthy of their family. On the day of my wedding, my parents were not allowed to sit at the main table. 6 months after the marriage, Ethan's father forced me to quit my job and become a full-time housewife. Even the pressure of not conceiving due to Ethan's oligozoospermia was placed on me. Every day, I not only had to carefully research all kinds of fertility tips sent by my mother-in-law, but also had to endure Ethan's father openly blaming me in front of family and friends for not being a woman enough to give birth. During all those years of marriage, Ethan had never defended me. Sometimes when I fought back, he would get impatient and yell at me, "Enough! All you do is shout all day long. Is there no peace in this house?" Looking at Ethan, it wasn't as if my heart wasn't cold. But I had initially gone to watch him dance in the plaza because he was my secret crush from college. A decade's worth of longing had led to marriage. How could I bear to extinguish this love with my own hands? But ultimately I was wrong. Perhaps Ethan had never loved me from the start. He just thought that I could take care of him, that he could vent his temper on me as he pleased. Instead of saying that Ethan and I were married because of love, it would be more accurate to say that Ethan had married a full-time, unpaid nanny. I don't know if Ethan likes Scarlett or not, but I do know that this wife of his was not even worth a piece of clothing from his friend Scarlett. Thinking about the past, I sent another message to Ethan. "Ethan, let's part on good terms after these years of marriage. I hope you will be on time at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow." Ethan didn't reply to my message, but at the same time that I sent him the message, he deliberately posted an update on his social media. "I'll be free tomorrow. So wonderful. No one will be able to control me anymore." The post was accompanied by a photo of him and Scarlett dancing together cheek to cheek. If it were in the past, I would have made a huge scene, and even thrown a tantrum at Ethan. But this time, I only calmly replied under his post with a few words. "Wish you happiness." But when it was time to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau the next day, Ethan, who had shouted that whoever didn't go was a grandson of a turtle, didn't show up. My parents and I waited angrily until noon, making 100 phone calls to Ethan. He didn't answer any of them. It wasn't until 4:30 p.m., after the Civil Affairs Bureau closed, that I received a call back from Ethan. As soon as the call connected, I angrily shouted, "Ethan, why didn't you come today?" Hearing my angry voice, Ethan paused before speaking with a choking voice. "What are you yelling about? Clara, I haven't divorced you yet. And who said you can decide the time we get a divorce? Scarlett had stomach pains today, so I took her to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. Getting a prenatal checkup for Scarlett is more important than getting a divorce with you." Listening to his explanation, I gnashed my teeth in anger. I had seen Scarlett's social media posts. Ethan hadn't accompanied Scarlett for her checkup at all. I didn't know what he was trying to do. Why was he lying? Wasn't he always longing to be with Scarlett every moment? I had already given him the chance to do that. So why was he delaying the divorce with me? It wasn't until the evening that I finally understood what Ethan was planning. His friend old Xavier sent me a photo. It was a nude photo of me full of fat. "Clara, come to How Ran restaurant tonight. Kneel down to apologize to Scarlett. If you don't come, I'll post this disgusting photo of you, that looks like rotten meat, all over the internet." I clenched my fist tightly. Tears finally couldn't be held back and streamed down my face. I didn't expect that Ethan would go to such lengths just so he could make me kneel down and apologize to Scarlett. Filled with anger, I went to the restaurant. As soon as I entered, old Xavier carefully supported Scarlett and angrily berated me. "Clara, you have to kneel down to Scarlett now. Do you know that because you insulted her yesterday, she started bleeding last night and had to go to the hospital today? If you don't kneel down today, I'll post your nude photo all over the internet." Saying that, old Xavier held up his phone screen, letting me clearly see the layers of fat in the red camisole dress that highlighted my body. I ignored him. Instead, I turned to look at Ethan, who was standing behind old Xavier. "My photo, you're the one who sent it to him, aren't you?" As I said this, my voice cracked and trembled with a sob at the end. Looking at my expression, Ethan's body involuntarily trembled. He began to move his lips as if trying to explain. But before he could utter a word, old Hugh by his side chuckled. "You don't have to threaten Ethan. I can answer you. It was Ethan who sent the photos for us to see. Look at your disgusting body fat, and you actually thought about having a child with Ethan. Do you know what Ethan said about you? Whenever he saw the fat on your body and the acne on your face, he lost his libido. Tell me, as a woman, how can you let things reach this stage? You made your husband lose his interest in being a man. You should reflect on how disgusting and despicable you are." Listening to old Hugh's mocking laughter, I curled up and cried. Ethan subconsciously wanted to come and help me, but the moment his hand touched me, I pushed him away violently, looking at the man who had staggered and fallen on the ground. With unprecedented despair, I took out my phone and immediately dialed a number. "Hello, 110? I need to report a crime. Someone is threatening me with my nude photos." Because I had recorded it, old Xavier and old Hugh were detained. When they were released, Scarlett, filled with rage, wanted to hit me. "Clara, are you satisfied? You had old Xavier and old Hugh arrested." But as soon as she stretched out her hand, Ethan grabbed her. While Scarlett was still in disbelief, I turned and walked over, slapping her across the face. "Scarlett, I originally didn't want to hit a pregnant woman, but you're really too despicable. Now I've hit you, you can go to the police. Arrest me, let me and your friends go to jail together." As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan rushed over. I thought he wanted to hit me on Scarlett's behalf, but he grabbed my hand tightly. "Clara, don't be impulsive. Apologize to Scarlett and let's go home. I know you are very angry now. I will slowly explain to you when we get home." Touching Ethan's hand sent a wave of disgusting stickiness through me. The scene of being insulted in the hotel instantly flooded my heart. With unprecedented anger, I slapped Ethan on the face. "Ethan, get lost. Don't touch me. You are so freaking disgusting." Ethan was stunned by my slap, but after a short pause he approached again, his eyes now red. "Clara, don't be impulsive. I know you are very angry now, but I really didn't know that old Xavier and the others would use the photos to threaten you. I just wanted to complain when I sent the photos in the group chat. I really didn't mean to do anything. You have to believe me. I don't want a divorce. I was only trying to ask you out tonight to apologize to you, but I was afraid you wouldn't come, so I agreed to have old Xavier threaten you with the nude photo. And that nude photo would never have been sent out. I just listened to old Hugh. I didn't want to spoil you, to be controlled by you. I was just trying to scare you." Hearing his forced explanations, a wave of disgust rushed into my heart. I cried. And then I laughed. A mocking chuckle. "Ethan, I have loved you for 5 years, but it's only today that I realize what kind of garbage I've been loving. Ethan, stop making excuses. Let's get a divorce. If I don't see you at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, I'll tell the whole world that Scarlett is pregnant with your bastard." Having said that, I turned and walked into the night without looking at Ethan again. In a marriage, compared to being betrayed, knowing that the man you loved was garbage was much more devastating. The next day at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ethan finally came. Before the registration, he held my wrist tightly, his eyes red. "Clara, can we not get a divorce? I was wrong. I really know that I was wrong. You don't know, I went back home last night and looked at the dark house. I then realized how important you are. As long as you agree not to get a divorce, I'll persuade Scarlett to abort the child. I won't hang out with old Xavier and them anymore. I'll be proactive about going to the hospital with you for IVF. I'll treat our home well." Looking at him, I only felt disgust. I pulled my wrist away forcefully. "Ethan, you're not unwilling to let me go. You're just unwilling to lose me, your nanny. During the years of our marriage, I have to place the food in your hands while you're eating. I have to provide you with water and tea. All you need to do is just open your mouth. You are younger than me. I loved you so deeply in the past. I was willing to take care of you, but now I only feel disgust. You got Scarlett pregnant with your child, you openly sent my nude photo to your friends, you even let your friends threaten me with the photo to make me kneel down and apologize to Scarlett. Because of all of these reasons, I can't forgive you for any of them. Ethan, just take it as me serving you for 3 years as payment. Please just let me part on good terms. Looking at my calm expression, Ethan dejectedly let go of my hand. He followed me into the lobby. When I got the divorce certificate, my heart felt as if it was bathed in warm sunlight. But Ethan was like a child who had his candy stolen from him, sobbing uncontrollably in the divorce hall. His voice choked. Clara, where will you go after we get a divorce? Will you remarry in the future? Can I still pursue you? Listening to his words, I didn't reply. To me, he was now just a disgusting stranger. That night, I packed my bags and left the city. As soon as I got on the bullet train, my mother called. She said that Ethan had been forced by his father to go to our house and kneel down to apologize. Holding my phone, I only told her lightly, "Mom, just kick them both out." After saying that, I hung up the phone. Then I directly formatted my phone, clearing all memories of the past. Because I had very little money, as all of Ethan's assets were premarital, I almost left with nothing besides some personal belongings. So in order to survive, I had to start with delivering food. Delivering food was really hard, but I was able to work 12 hours a day. Compared to the past, when I was lying at home, waiting to be humiliated by Ethan's family, I prefer this free life now. Also, through the physical exercise I got from delivering food, I lost 12 pounds in the first month, and even the acne on my face disappeared a lot. When I got my first salary, that night, I hid alone in my dilapidated rented room and cried for the whole night. It was only then that I realized that my love for Ethan had not only destroyed my figure, my looks. It had also destroyed my self-esteem. After delivering food for half a year, I had saved some money and opened a small noodle shop on the side of the road. It didn't earn much, but it was enough to satisfy me. The unmarried man in his 30s who sold electronics next door was obviously interested in me. But I had already been so scarred by marriage that I did not dare to enter into it again, even though I had feelings for him. He wasn't in a rush. Whenever he was free, he would come to help out at the noodle shop. If I had something urgent to take care of, he would help me watch the shop. Until one afternoon, after I came back from running errands, I saw the man slumped over and asleep at my counter. At that moment, a warmth suddenly entered my heart. He didn't know how to breakdance like Ethan. He wasn't from a wealthy family, nor was he as educated as Ethan. But looking at him sleeping peacefully, he gave me a feeling of security. I agreed to his pursuit. During our relationship, he was extremely good to me, not letting me do any hard work. He gave me every single penny he earned. Until a year into our relationship, we decided to get married. Before the wedding, I took him to my parents' house. Just as we reached the bottom of the apartment building, Ethan rushed out. Clara, you're back." Looking at his careful gaze, I just grabbed the man's hand and went upstairs. When we got back home, I was about to explain to him that the man was my ex-husband. But the man chuckled and said, "I don't want to be jealous, so don't tell me about his past. I only know that I am your husband now, and you are my wife." Looking at him, he was just trying to avoid hearing about it. I was amused by his behavior and smiled slightly. That night, through my mom's account, I found out that after I got divorced, Ethan's dad, upon discovering that Scarlett was pregnant with his son's child, had forcefully contacted Scarlett's parents, forcing Ethan and Scarlett to get married. But it was strange, the two of them got along well before marriage. But after they got married, they were constantly arguing at home. Ethan cursed Scarlett for being despicable, for sleeping with any man. Scarlett cursed Ethan for being a coward who listened to everything his dad said. Even when Scarlett was more than 6 months pregnant, the baby in her stomach had fallen out because of an argument and a fall. After that, Scarlett's own father had brought a group of people to teach Ethan a lesson, and had broken one of his legs. Hearing my mother's description, I finally understood why Ethan was limping when I saw him earlier. However, regardless of what happened to Ethan, he was already in the past. And now I was about to start a new marriage. Perhaps the future will still be full of thorns, but I think that as long as I don't lose my self-respect, I'll be able to live happily and self-sufficiently in this marriage. The Inn.